Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to KF&JF podcast. Today I want to talk a little bit about what it takes to really get yourself all together for certain things. Life is one of those things where it continues to show us that we are not in control, no matter how and how much we seem to think that we are. We're just absolutely not the one in control. And I'll tell you a little bit about why I think that's the case. Because I've seen it from all different angles. Maybe not all different angles, but a whole lot of angles. And my perspective is going to be a little bit of my perspective. And I go from it and I come at it from this way. God is in control of everything. There's nothing you do, nothing you say, and nowhere you go that God don't know. So if we start with the premise that that's the way things are, then it probably makes it a little bit easier to understand my conversation because not everybody believes in that and not everybody takes that to heart. The fact that God is the one who's in control and that where you go and what you do is already been marked on paper. We're just the one how. Now, I'm not going to say how, but we're just the ones who is coloring it in. It's on paper, but we're coloring it in. The directions from where you start and the directions to where you're going to end, how it's written, is already there. The variations of color is what you put down, how you lead, and how you guide yourself. And I think about this in the context of the political situation that we're in. Right now, everybody's gotten their heads twisted and minds shot out over life. For some reason, here in America, people think life is just, you know, one side or the other. When you start looking at the way it's been written over time, you'll realize that God has had to deal with multiple countries at the same time. And yet, it was written all in one color. And that was the color of do unto others, you want others to do unto you. Again, this is my view. So, and I start looking at the situation that happened the other day regarding Nancy Pelosi. And I started to myself, well, how did that happen? What was the part of this that led to someone wanting to go into somebody's house and beat up an old woman? She's 80 something years old. I'm thinking of that being my mom. She's 80 something, getting ready to be 80. And I start thinking, what is the reasoning for someone to want to wake up in the morning and go beat up my mom? What does she do to them? How does she affected them to where she is the target of their morning coffee? Well, it's one of those things where we're probably never going to be able to understand. But it is the color that is written. We know the start, we know the end. But this is part of the coloring of the situation. Is it our politics that has been so driven by hate, misunderstanding, sense of entitlement, and a sense of you're right and I'm wrong? So therefore, we must fight. And when you look at all of the things that has happened in life and all the people that have dealt with these type of issue over the history, that we know, all of us that's of age that know, it's been one of those things that has never really truly been understood. There is no real um, answer to someone that is wrong and someone that is right. You know what the situation is? It's called understanding. Do you understand where I'm coming from? And do I understand where you're coming from? Because in that is balance. And today, as someone wake up in the morning to go over and beat up an old man because of his understanding of the situation in life, where he's seen things in a way where he feels as if this old lady is out to hurt him, out to make him something he's not, marginalize him in some way. And that has got to be furthest from the truth. Wouldn't you think? That's not something that's rational. But it is something that we're facing in our politics of hate today. And I look back on life of all the things that I've learned in my young age, from hate, the real hate that African Americans have been through, from Selma to dogs to slavery to whippings to education to financing to every aspect of the American life to some extent. African Americans has been really, 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 truly hated or disliked, if you don't want to use such a strong word as hated, because it might not be shown that way. It may not be colored that way in your eyes. But in some, it is very much colored that way. So hate and misunderstanding and all of that is something the black and brown people probably feel is something that they can go ahead and take solace that, hey, I should be angry. But truly, if you look at it, they don't holster that kind of anger every day, running around trying to be a holster of anger. Now, not to say that they don't have it, not to say that they don't sometimes show it, but it's not something that every day they're running around trying to be in front of the TV camera to push in our politics. But I've learned that maybe we're just not seeing the right color on the paper. So as I look at the problem with this politics and what Trump has done to probably get people to see things his way and look at things from his point of view, he has the microphone of the voice that people in this country seem to like. And I'll tell you the honest truth about that, because this might be something that people don't know, or some people probably didn't get. But people used to like Donald Trump. Black, white, Mexicans, everybody. Let's not think about the background of Donald Trump as far as what his color is in the background, but what he was putting forth to the image that he was portraying was a businessman, a rich man, a man of that he thought would be someone that liked and someone that was honest in his opinion about you. People could understand that. People could actually look at that and say, you know what? That's how I want to be. I want people to understand me for who I am, and I want to be able to be straightforward with them so that there is no question about who I am. That is something to take stance with. But we're not talking about the color that's on the paper. The color that's on the paper with Donald Trump is a little bit darker. It's a little bit more hidden. But yet now it's out in the view. Because you know why? He's brought in a lot of people that have that view that honestly don't like certain people. And we've seen this before in this country. We've seen the darkness of this country. And I don't understand why people don't just look back and see that that is not a place where you want to go. It cannot be a place where a country of the United States would want to ever repeat or look into and said, we want to go back that way. But there are people that want that. There are people that look at that in a way that just doesn't make sense to you and I. But they have come to the agreement in their mind that hate is a way of getting what you want. And that is something that I cannot take in as um, something that we should all be thinking as satisfactory. That is something that we should be sitting around our kitchen table going, you know what, Dad, Mom, who can we hate today? What can we do to get hate to get what we want today, Mom? How can hate make us some food? How can hate get us a job? How can hate get us some money? But there are people out there that are doing that, from politicians to organizations to all of the people that think that hate has a place. It does not, ladies and gentlemen. It just does not have a place. Not in a country where you have all of these people who have been burning their lives or taking away all of their family time and all of their personal time to make their lives better, not only for themselves, for their friends, for their neighbors, for their country, for everybody around them. What about those people? What about those people that have given up everything that they have for somebody else? For somebody else to have something equal to or better. That is the dilemma we face in the politics of today, and how Nancy Pelosi has come to this kind of harsh reality of our politics. She's hated, but yet she's served over 30 years in the position of trying to help someone else, trying to be a part of the political environment that geared on societal issues, problems to be resolved with an understanding of how to come to a common cause and ground. But somewhere along the line, we've lost that. Let's just think about the people we've lost in that common ground area. You know, we have Martin Luther King. We lost him in that common ground area. John Lewis, we lost in that common ground area. You know, and there is just a whole lot of others that I'm not going to be able to mention because I don't want to be the one to leave a whole bunch of people out. But I mentioned those two for the purpose of two purposely good reasons, two really good reasons. One is unity of all people, what Martin Luther King wanted. Even though he wanted the success of black men and women, children, to be equally judged as their counterpart, that is something to be admired for that is something that this country is supposed to stand for. But we look at John Lewis, who was a part of that fight, but had left a fight to be yet to be reckoned with, and that's the voters' right. For people to be accepted in their stance in voting, to be equally judged as to how they get to the voting box. Two powerful, very powerful statements of the American conscience, the vote and the uniting of that vote, its people. So as I get back to the story of Nancy Pelosi and her husband being attacked, I have to think about where is it that we've made the horrible, horrible turn? Was it the people around us that did it? Was it our family? Did they not get the memo of understanding? Was it our neighbor's family? Did not get the memo of understanding? Because I realized they all got a kitchen table. I mean, maybe not all, but we all sit there at some point and think about each other and wonder what that other person will take from us. And in that becomes the judgment of who and what we think about each other. And I have to get back to the understanding that in my life, when you step on the toes of misunderstanding, you'll never, ever, ever get back your toe because it will be taken. Because your misunderstanding will be doubled and then misunderstood in another way and misunderstood in this way, and it'll keep being misunderstood to where you'll never get it back to be able to correct that misunderstanding. So the key is this, that you don't make and you don't speak what you don't know. Therefore, there is no misunderstanding. You have a straightforward answer. And I think that is what Trump brought to the table when you liked him. But now we have an issue where people in this country has found that this man has just tore us apart. He had just brought hate to the table. He had just brought out the roaches, the rats, the ants out of the woodwork when they used to be on the ground. They used to be in places where you didn't see them, or we had spray to keep them away. And the spray of goodness, the spray of love, the spray of understanding was the biggest defecting spray that kept some of those things away. I don't have much to say to those people who are feeling as if this country is in a bad position, because some places I've been, they were in some bad positions. Bathrooms messed up and a whole lot of other stuff. But how do we get out of this situation? How do we make ourselves and the people around us better? How do we come to a place where we do not have hate? And I'll tell you, this is how you do that. Just look in your family. Just look where your family stands on the issue of hate. And that's where you start. Where do your family stand? Do you have a family that's hatred of others? Do you have people around you that's hatred of others? Because that's the beginning of where you need to change the color, what's written in your life. So therefore, it is a lot more clear to be understood. And in my family, there is some misunderstanding of what life is all about sometimes. And so we all have to be cognizant of that. You know, I've lost my wife, and some of the understandings that I've picked up on in that situation is that all the hate that you can have, all the dislikes you can have, all of the problems that you can have is not worth the loss of a family member. So therefore, it only leaves one area to work in. It only leaves one area to work in, and that is the two things, at least one at this point, that Martin Luther King talked about, and that is trying to figure out what is your common ground so that you can move in a loving and understanding way with the people around you. Don't take for granted that the time you have to create this understanding, to get involved in a situation where you can make things a little bit more clear. Because soon as you think that you have the time to do it, something happens where that time is not allotted to you. God gave it to you when you thought of it. But again, on paper, you put down a different color. And those are that situation where you feel as if you did everything you could, but really you didn't. You know, you allow time to eat away or things to take up what was you know in your mind to be right. And that's how hate is. When you know in your mind the people, things are contributing hate in your surroundings, and you let it fester, then I think that you are to blame. If you got things you're supposed to talk about to your family and your friends, and you choose to go to work or go to school or go outside or walk away, then you are the blame for when those situations happen and you do not have the ability to have understanding. So God has put down all of your time. You have to put down all of your understanding and make clear that you have an understanding of hope and an understanding of love and an understanding of appreciation for those around you. Because hate doesn't have a place there. So as our politics starts to run around and everybody is, you know, looking at each other like the country's going to go into a handbasket and being turned around and weaved away, it's all you. It's all what you're thinking and how you are trying to create part of that weaving of that handbasket. What kind of thread are you using? What kind of thread of understanding are you trying to sow? Is it hate? Is it love? Or is it just pure misunderstanding? And that's something that I think that has happened to us over the years. And creating a little bit of better understanding in our life might help with hate, might help with our family. It might help with better communication at the kitchen table. Because once they're gone, your family, your friends, the people you know that you've hated so much, or the people you've left misunderstood, both in you and in them, where does it leave you? Because all that's gone, where does it leave you? There's nobody to hate that person anymore. There's nobody to be misunderstood by because they're not there. What do you do? How do you move on? And what do you do to make things better? And that is the hard part of life, because that's something God only laid one thing down to you: do unto others as you want others to do unto you. That is the guiding principle that you start with, and that's the guiding principle that you lead with, And that is the guiding principle that you die with. So, as you're writing your story of life, how many people have you put into the understanding column, compromise column, and the column of respect? And how many people you put into that column of hate and that column of dislike and that column of I don't want to be around? Let me just tell you, that should not be a column in your life because it doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't give you any benefit in working with God because that's not how God works. And you bringing that to the table ain't going to do nothing to help him look at you any better. All he's going to say is you got problems that you need to work on because I've already laid down the start and finish. What you do in between is up to you. And if you want to take that kind of issue to your last day, if you can't look back and say, him, I wish that thing was different. I wish that I had this better. I wish that this, I wish that that, because that's not really, truly something he could make better for you. At the time, you had all of the opportunity. And the politics of our situation nowadays has always been the time. The time that we're in is where we all seem to be stuck in. We forget of all the people who led their hard lives to make it so that you today, you on your internet, your phone, and your Android, and your iPhone, and your car that drives itself, where did that come from? How far back do you can go to see the people that put understanding together to work toward these goals of life for America? What have you done to do that? Is it just you hearing something that has decided, where you've decided that that is how you're going to be the rest of your life? Have you done something that you say, well, I'm so right that I don't need to be understood? I don't need to have anyone tell me anything? Are you that selfish? Because that's just not how it goes. That's just not how it goes in a society where we're trying to make things better for one another. That only works in a place where the devil lives. Because the devil lives among people who have no care in the world about making themselves look like they're doing anything good for someone else. Or even looking like they're having a state of understanding. So look back at yourself. You know, like Michael Jackson say, take a look in the mirror. But I think it's a little bit better than that. You don't even have to go look in the mirror. Feel your heart. Feel your heartbeat. Are you calm when you're talking to people? When you're thinking about people? When you're listening to people? Are you calm? Are you relaxed? Are you stressed out when you think about them? Or are you stressed out? Your heart rates up when you got to say something to them. Because that tells me that you haven't put yourself in a position of ease. Maybe there's something going on that you need to get out. And I don't think that going to an 80 years old house and trying to hurt her is going to get you what you need. It's going to help you understand what's the problem. Maybe you got to take a little bit of step back and realize life is a whole lot bigger than that. Really, it's a whole lot bigger than that. We have to get along. We have to be able to be better. This is not something that's just going to go away. It's what you leave behind. All of that toxicity is what you leave behind to your kids, to your family, to your friends, and to your neighborhood. And I tell you, it's wrong. I spent some time around people that have just had no care in the world. And I spend time around people that all their care has been taken away. But they've shown grace. They have shown understanding. They have shown love. They have shown caring for the next guy. Even though their situation is doomed. Even though their situation has already been written. The ink is already on the paper. There's nothing that they can do. But yet they are in a position to be able to spread love, unity, and respect toward their fellow man. It's something that I don't understand quite how we've got to a place like this. How we've gotten to a place where America has been so divided, you know, and how some of our people have decided to be so lazy. I'm not going to hide it in their mindset, their thought processes, and in their abilities. They have been stagnated and have decided that they are going to be accepting of where they are and who they are. And that's not something that I would think you would want to do if you look back on those two people that I talked about. One was killed and one worked himself to death for the purpose of creating understanding, both of them. We're creating the place where we can be better. Holding anger, holding frustration about others, holding hate is not going to lead to anything good. What do you have to gain by hating another race? What do you have to gain by not communicating to another race? What do you have to show in your life by keeping education, information of another race away from you? How do you benefit in life? It's like being able to lay concrete with no water. It's like being able to grow a plant with no water. You know how dry it is in the desert. Some plants do grow in the desert. But dude, that's where you want to live? If that's where you think that you will be able to survive with everybody in the hot, hot, hot desert? Just you sitting out there all alone? No. Things have to be nurtured. Things have to be nurtured to flourish in a way that make it look, feel, and be acceptable. That's how we have to treat each other. We have to nourish that with love, understanding, commitment, to listening to each other. We can't sit back and just let everything just dry out and grow out in the desert. That's what we've gotten ourselves into, ladies and gentlemen. We've gotten ourselves into one of these places where everybody is feeling as if burn it all up, burn each other all up. I mean, that just seems like what's happening over there in Russia and Ukraine. He's just shooting at everything, burning everything up. We over here fighting each other on voting. We over here trying to figure out how to hate each other the worst. We over here having politics where we can't even realize the fact that what we've been through, 200 and something plus years of raising this country. And you guys don't understand the heartache that we've been through, yet you want to create more heartache? Do you not understand what life's about? And I will just say this to you because I want you to really feel it. When someone dies, that Pelosi husband would have died, do you think everything that she worked for in her life to make things easy for some people and being in public service was worth that to her? No, it wasn't. It wouldn't be. But God called her to serve. He had that on her paper. He had that in her life. God's called you for something too. God has called you for something too. And it's not for hate. It's not for tearing down your fellow man. And you may say, God may have called you for love. He might have called you for love. But more than anything he called you for is understanding. And in that understanding, it it just absolutely requires you to do unto others as you want others to do unto you. It has no other way of working because that is the foundation that gets us through everything. So we need to start acting like it. We need to start taking away this hate from our families and our friends and our neighborhood, from our politics, from our societal financial situation, housing situation, homeless thinking process. Everything that we do, we got to take away that kind of thinking and bring in the principle part. I mean, the Ten Commandments has its place. Of course it does. The Constitution has its place. Of course it does. But you don't get it, any of those. You can't make any of that work with your family, with anybody else, unless you have that principle guidance of do unto others as you want others to do unto you. Once you get that into the principle thinking of your life and who you are and how you carry yourself and what you do with yourself and how you write down things in your life, then you will be able to understand that there is common ground. There is not a place in your heart of hate. There is not a place in your heart of misunderstanding because you've taken that into account when you decide to have that conversation. So, America, there's a lot of hate. I feel it. I know. But it has no place. If you look at when you walk out the door to get in your car and you drive down the street and the guy that you stop at the red light and you stop behind waiting for the green light, and he goes through the green light and you go through the green light, that is a sign of understanding. But you walk out that door one day and there's somebody to beat you before you get in the car. You walk out that door one day and you hop in your car and go to that red light, and the guy that's at the light runs through the light when it's red. Just takes off through it. That's hate. That's what hate looks like. Doesn't have any boundary. Doesn't have any understanding of life. When you walk out your house, you get in your car, and you the one coming through that green light, and hate comes through it knowingly, knowingly comes through that doggone corner of that intersection on your green light of life. Is that what you want? I'm talking about you. Is that what you want? Because, yeah, you may say, oh, okay, that's fine. That's okay with me. I'll take that. I'll take hate come my way. I'll treat it my way. I'll go back and get him. But let me tell you something you just forgot about when you said that statement. You ain't always in the car by yourself. You ain't always in the car by yourself. You got other people. Your family, your daughter, your kids, those kids of other family members that you picked up from the game, taking to the soccer game, picking up from the movies, or bringing over to a friend's house for a birthday party. Hate comes through that doggone intersection. Do you have the willpower to say, I accept hate, that I accept misunderstanding, misinformation? Yeah, because that's what it looks like when it's running into a country, running through a country that had 200 plus years, that could show you in any book what hate looks like, and yet you want to take it away from the school so that they can have an understanding of how to go to that light, and when it's red, stop. When it's green, go. But because you so blinded by the hate, and you don't care what that guy's doing behind you, you don't like him anyway. Until one day you're faced with the hate that's coming through your intersection of life, through your intersection of family, friends, neighborhood. There's nothing good about that, and it doesn't lead us nowhere. And let me tell you something else. You won't get nothing out of it. You ain't gonna run down to the hate or us and celebrate. You might not make it there. You ain't gonna be able to tell the next guy, oh, I was so hating of this guy, you might not be able to say that either. I was so hating of this situation, might not be able to say that either. Not to say that doesn't happen with just plain old love. But the chances of it happening with hate increases substantially in our politics, in our families, in our neighborhoods, with our friends. And those are places that we can't afford to have that, because all we're doing is repeating hate. We're putting hate in a place where it gets to fester. It gets watered. It grows nutrients. It sprouts. It becomes a tree. Decades old and hard to chop down, and always sprouting out new roots. But you take those principles that I talked about, and you take those two guys that have put their lives in situations to make things a little bit easier for us, and the countless others that have. Maya Angelou, with the words of understanding. There's a lot to be said for people that have taken on the risk of sacrifice, of service. So when you go to try to hurt Nancy Pelosi because whatever you feel, or whatever you think about her, it's not going to serve you any good. When you listen to someone who has came to power or think they have came to some sort of power and let them control your life, you're making a mistake. God has already written your story. He's already put the start date, and he's already got the finish date. I told you the understanding factor, do unto others as you want others to do unto you. And once you have established that, you will be in a position of love. But without that, you will be in a position of misunderstanding. And that doesn't lead you nowhere good. It doesn't bring your family closer to you. You may think it is, but unless you're a hermit, you're going to be just stuck there with your family because everybody else is going to see you differently. It ain't like everybody's going to be able to be 100%. But are you working toward 100? Because I hear a lot of these guys and people out there say, you know what, where I came from, I'm just going to be 100. When they only being 29, probably being 20. And I'm only giving them 20 because I figure they have to be born with 10. And life gives you 10, but what you do with life gives you the rest. I think this is time for us all to take a look at ourselves. Stop. Stop all this hate. Take a step back, folks. Play a little bit better understanding